What's up, folks? I'm trying to see if I'm going to do a live today. That depends on whether or not you're live. So come on into the chat and join me for this session. I'm going to try to dive into a thought that has been circulating in the old melon, and I want to see if I'm if I'm the only one here. What's up, EAE? I wanted to say EA Sports. Get in the game. Thanks for joining. Come on through. I forgot the title of this. There's no way for me to go back and title it now, is it? Well, you'll see what we're going to be talking about today. Part of the reason why I was a little hesitant to jump on today is because I just did a 3-hour session yesterday with Michael Apple, and I want folks to go check that out. And there's sort of I don't know how other people do it. I mean, there are people that jump online every day doing these. And I guess that's what I'm moving towards, doing it at least 2 or 3 times a week. But my mindset before, and Jay Witt tried to talk me out of this, my mindset was to not be cannibalizing my content. So if I put a video up today and it gets, 500, 600 views, do I put another one up tomorrow, or do I leave that one up so that more people go watch that one, as opposed to making people feel like, no, I got to choose between watching the one I missed yesterday or the one he just put up today? Y'all talk to me. How would you prefer? Like, is there such a thing as too much content, too much uploads? Because I want to be available and helpful and all that, but I also don't want to cannibalize my own content. So is less more, or is more more? which should I be doing here? And I'm trying to think about how I think about it. Like when my content creators that I watch, people like Paula G and Myth Vision, I don't know if I ever feel like you're putting up too much content, but I do feel like, okay, I'll have to go back and watch. And I'll throw stuff in my watch list, and I might get around to it and I might not, or I just haven't yet. But I feel like if they put up a video once a week, twice a week, I might be more prone to go watch that. I don't know. But y'all talk to me in the chat. Let me throw something in the chat here just so I know it's working. And I didn't announce this one because, like I said, I wasn't sure if I was going to do it, but I am. Here I am. What's happening? Who all is in here? I see a few folks coming through. Come into the chat if you can. Maybe you're driving, or maybe you're not supposed to be on your phone where you are right now, so you can't. But if you can, come into the chat, greet somebody in Reason's name, so we know who we talking to. SG, what's going on? All right, I'm going to talk about something today that I'm going to expose probably how uneducated I am. There are people that think I'm like a cool nerd because I know what I know, but there's so much that I don't know, and so much that I find out. I'm like, damn, I bet you other people already knew this, but for some reason I didn't know it. So I won't tell you when I found out. I'll just say I recently found out. That's how I'll save myself whatever embarrassment would come from telling you when I found out. I recently found out. I won't say whether it was this year or last year, but recently. I recently found out about mold spores. Mold spores, yes. How many of you, what do you know about mold spores? Don't Google it. Don't ask Siri. Don't tap into the AI. What do you know about mold spores? I knew nothing about mold spores. No, I'm not going to say nothing. I knew that maybe they were associated with allergies. If you breathe them in, you might be sneezing, or if you have an allergic reaction, it's probably because pollen in the air or something like that. Um, Thank you for helping me not feel so bad. Says no idea what it is, honestly. Thank you so much for that, because I had some idea, but not to the degree that I found out recently. So, I just one day I just was like wondering things, and I just Googled, like, I said, Bethany Keys, what's up? Bethany says they will make you sick. Yeah, yeah. Um, at some point, I was, I watch all these videos on YouTube about just what we found out about our reality, just scientifically. And they talk a lot about microbes, right? Microorganisms, living organisms that are so small that you cannot see them with the naked eye. And as they begin to talk about the different kinds of microbes, so you got bacteria, you got fungi, you got all these different kinds of microorganisms. And at some point I got to thinking, like, yo, how does mold grow on food? Don't Google anything. What Tell me what you already know. Maybe I'm going to feel dumb, like, damn, see, I should have been like her or him. He knew. How does mold grow on food? What do you know? Throw it in the chat if you can. If you're driving or you're at work and you can't, it's all good. But I just want to see, without Googling, what other people already know, because maybe I won't feel so bad if you can't answer this question either. How does mold grow on food? What do you think? No cheating, no peeking. Cell division of what, Bethany Keys? Because you're right, but cell division of what? SG said, yeah, mold spores, they are yucky. I'm waiting for a few more responses to come into the chat. If you don't respond, I'll just go on. Okay, SG says, So, okay, because my sister SG, she's the one that I typically get any kind of this type of, if I'm not Googling it or going to YouTube, she's the one that's putting me down with this kind of stuff. So the fact that she says, is actually helpful. And then, see, look, even Bethany Keys, who, she said cell division, so she was right. But then she says that I'm unsure, but I know that for the bacteria to spread, cells divide to multiply. So, like, you're right. But so this is the thing, right? I just took a breath. And in the breath that I just took, you know what I inhaled? Uh-oh. It says, it's because of the temperature and the conditions in the environment of your food that allows spores to spread on it, I think. So look, you know more than you thought, because that's actually correct. In the air that we breathe, there are mold spores just floating in the air. And if you don't know what a mold spore is, the spore is the reproductive part of the actual mold. So the way mold reproduces is, yep, okay, I see. The way mold reproduces is not just cell division, like that's more bacteria, I think, but the spores are actually the reproductive part of the mold. And those spores are floating through the air. Those spores land on food. And if the food, like, the reason why landing on food helps the spore is because food has two things that the spore needs. The spore needs water, and the spore needs nutrients. And the type of food you have out in the open, the more water it has, so like fruit in particular. Psionic, what's going on? So if you have food that has a lot of moisture and nutrients, if a mold spore, which are all throughout the air that we breathe, just floating through the air, if the mold spore lands on that food, it's going to be able to feed on that, and it will start to grow and reproduce. That blew me away when I found this out. Because for my entire life, I know you probably shouldn't leave food out. You wrap it up. That's why we have saran wrap. And even in the, I knew you had to wrap the food up. And somewhere in my mind, I knew, okay, there's something about the air and the food that don't mix well. So we got to wrap it up. But I didn't know what it is. Like I thought maybe there was something in the food that was maybe having a negative reaction to the air. I don't know what the hell I thought. I just knew open air is bad for food. But to find out it's not just the air that's bad. No, it's nothing wrong with the air. It's the mold spores that are just casually floating through the air. And if they land on food, the mold spores get to grow and reproduce on your food, which is why it grows. And so that blew me away. So we're going somewhere with this whole concept. And then I said, well, damn, if I didn't know that, like I was doing the thing to keep my food as safe as could be, I just didn't know why I was doing it. Then I said, okay, so then why do we put food in the refrigerator and then especially like meat, why do we put it in the freezer? Because I was willingly doing it to keep my food, to make it last, to preserve it. But I really didn't know the science behind why the F am I doing this? So don't Google anything, y'all. Don't Siri, don't AI. Let me see what Bethany says. Bethany says, yeah, I thought the food was producing the mold, not that the mold found its way to the food and grows. Exactly. So now let's see how much we know. Why do you freeze food? Why do you put food in the refrigerator or the freezer to keep it? Don't Google nothing. Just I'm going to see if you are as if you were as uneducated as I was. Do you know why we freeze food? Why we put food in the refrigerator? How does that help? Let's see what you know. Don't Google it, y'all. Don't Google it. I know you're tempted. I just want to see. Suspend. Okay, Holy Shift says suspend decay. Yes, I think we all figure that, but how is what I'm asking. How does the freezer or the refrigerator suspend the decay? What's up, Pragmatic Crystal? I second that motion. Like, share, subscribe. I always forget to say that kind of stuff. It stops the decomposing process. Yes, but there we go. That's what I was looking for. Yes. So yes and no. It's not just that cells break down slower when cold. That may be true. What happens is what the cold does, refrigerator, yes, freezer all the more. What it does is in those extremely cold temperatures, the molecules move much slower. And when the molecules move slower, that means the mold cannot grow and reproduce as fast as it otherwise would. So by putting it in the refrigerator, and especially the freezer, when those molecules slow all the way down and they are not moving as fast as they want to move, what happens is the mold enters into a dormant state. And while it's in that dormant state, it's not growing, it's not reproducing. That's what keeps your food from spoiling. This shit blew my mind because like I said, the entire time I was doing all the things that you need to know or that you need to do to keep the food longer. I just didn't understand why the hell I was doing it. So why am I saying it? One, just because that blew me away, and it made me think about my food in ways that I had never thought about it. I had a friend that came over recently, and we had bought some cookies, and I took the cookies that I get them from Insomnia Cookies. This is not a commercial for Insomnia. They come in a little box, but I knew that box is not airtight, so I took the box that the cookies were in, and I put that box in a big, plastic seal bag. And my friend was like, "Oh, that's smart." And maybe it was smart, but it wasn't as smart as I thought because I was doing the right thing. I didn't know why I was doing it. I was safe. I wasn't smart, right? If I was smart, I would be able to say, yeah, I'm putting it in this bag because I don't want the mold spores to find their way into this box, get on the food, and grow on it. I didn't know enough to say that. I just was doing the safe thing, not the smart thing. Because if you had told me some other explanation as to why I should put them in the bag, and I thought, oh, okay, then I wasn't smart enough to explain and defend why I was doing it. Now, why am I saying this? Just the past couple weeks, the current administration has been doing things to dismantle much of what has been keeping us safe in this country. Last week, between the CDC and the FDA, 10,000 federal workers lost their jobs. They received letters saying, you're no longer needed. We're dismantling this department, your position. Like, just instantly, like no warning, no just gone. No knowledge transfer, no take all the things that you know. We're going to spend the next 6 months to a year putting what you know in a database or maybe gathering all this information into one department. We're not going to do any of that. You just get the F out, you're done. So everything that you knew, everything that you were doing, all the research, it's gone. Right? The current administration is pulling funding from all kinds of departments and universities around the country. All these research departments in these colleges around the country that are the frontline soldiers in a war that we didn't even know that we were fighting. Right? Some of the reasons why you might be safe, you might feel safe, the reasons why you don't get as sick as you probably would get, the reasons why you don't have to fear some of the things that you probably would fear, whether it be vaccines that have been keeping us safe, whether it just be the research that helped us realize, oh, here's a new way to treat asthma. Here's a better way to deal with breast cancer. All the research that has made us as safe and productive and advanced as we are as a nation. All of that is being shut down around the country, and people are being fired from doing this kind of work. We have been safe, much safer than we know, from things that research has been helping us to figure out ways to preempt or ways to defend against. If you take that kind of protection, that kind of foresight and forethought, that kind of preemptive strike against future outbreaks and future pandemics, if you dissemble all that, you might feel safe enough to do it because, hey, nothing bad has happened so far. So we must not need all these programs. We must not need all this research. We must not, because look at how safe we are. Look at how healthy we are. But what you're not taking into account is you only feel as safe as you do because of the research that has been done, because of the advances that have been made in technology and science. So you think that because of those, or maybe you don't think this, you don't realize that because of everything that's been done up until this point, you're in a very secure space. You're using your current security to say, I don't need all of the things that have kept me secure. But that's not an indictment against the things that have kept you secure. It's not, oh, I don't need the research. Oh, I don't need this cancer department. Oh, I don't need this. Think about what happened when President Trump addressed the Joint Congress a few weeks ago. He had all these little tidbits in his speech that was supposed to get the applause from the crowd. And one of the things he was using was he had this little, I think it was a 10-year-old, or I don't know how old the kid was, who was a cancer patient. And he made this kid an honorary CIA member. And then when he did that, of course, all the Republicans stood up and cheered. The Democrats stayed seated. And then he used that to say, see, look, I can't do anything. I can't get an applause from these Democrats for nothing. They don't even want this little cancer patient here to be recognized. Well, it wasn't that they were not happy for the little cancer patient that you were doing this good deed for. It was because they knew you just hired Robert Kennedy Jr. as your Health and Human Services Secretary. You're going to be doing things that's going to dismantle everything that's being done to help save this kid's life. So we're not going to applaud your shenanigans when turned around and now the doctor who was helping that kid, his research facilities are now being shut down because they're not being funded anymore. So why would we applaud that? I'm saying all that to say this. A lot of times, I think people in certain crowds, like the anti-vax crowd and the people who are celebrating Robert F. Kennedy Jr., what he's doing with the FDA. Like, is he doing some good things? I think he is doing some good things. We don't need these additives and these food dyes in our food and all that. Like, fine, have at that kind of stuff. But if you're at the same time as you're doing that, if you're at the same time dismantling all of the things that have been keeping us safe this entire time, and you're using our current safe status, our current secure standing as somehow proof that we never needed that this entire time, like, just like those mold spores that are currently in the air that you don't even think about, you don't even realize. I didn't think about this, but this is a perfect example. These mold spores, right, that are just in the air floating around, you don't even realize that they're there. But like me, I was still wrapping my food up because I just had this idea that there's something about the air and this food that don't mix. If I don't understand what's actually happened, I may be doing the right thing for all the wrong reasons. And I might actually stop doing the right thing because I don't understand why I was doing it in the first place. We are right now in this country about to stop doing the right things because many of us never understood why we were doing them in the first place. We thought that these research facilities and these all these clinical trials and all that, we thought this is just big pharma, just trying to find ways to bilk us out of money and all that. And I'm not saying that that's not part of what's going on. That might very well be some of what's going on. But you've got to know that the reason why many of us are safe, even if you're unvaxxed in this country, the reason why many of us are safe is because of all the other people who are vaxxed. But because you don't understand that, you think, see, I didn't need that vaccine anyway. Look at how safe I am. While you're surrounded by a bunch of people who are vaccinated, keeping you safe. If you don't understand how things work, you might be doing the right thing for all the wrong reasons, which might lead to you stop doing the right thing. You might stop doing the right thing because you never knew why you were doing it in the first place. Now, that's happening with this country right now when it comes to what's happening with the CDC, the FDA, and all that. You may want to disagree with me there. You can go back and forth, but I'm going to transition now because spiritually, this same thing, I think, is happening. Where if you don't understand what's really going on, you come up with all kinds of like pseudoscientific, that's sort of what spirituality is. It's a pseudoscience of what's really going on. So when you don't understand, not that we actually understand consciousness totally right now anyway, but because you don't fully understand consciousness, because you don't understand that there is an entire universe of microorganisms alive inside of you. There's more bacteria in your DNA than there are human cells. Because you don't understand what makes you you, you're prone to accept pseudo-scientific, philosophical, religious ideas as to what you actually are, which is why humankind has developed the language of the soul and spirit and all that kind of thing, because we don't understand what this is. And so when someone comes along with an explanation that, well, I guess I do have a soul, I guess the breath that's in my body, maybe that's my spirit. And so I was talking about the microorganisms that are floating through the air. I don't know if she's watching. I don't know if she's ever watched my podcast. But the woman who edited my book, I love her. She's on my Facebook page. She deconverted as well. I don't even know how I found her. I think when I deconverted, she commented on my page because she used to not listen to, but she knew some Christian rappers from Philadelphia. And she said, "Hey, I edit, books. If you ever have any need." I was like, "Oh, I'm editing a book right now." So she jumped on board. She edited my book for me, Let There Be Gaslight. But in her deconversion, she was mid deconstruction. I probably should check in and see where she is now. But in her mid deconstruction, she still was very open to the idea of the spiritual. And so she was looking at people who were like talking about things like quantum physics and trying to make something spiritual out of quantum physics and all that. And so as we were talking, she was like, "Michael Apple, what's going on?" Yeah, please go back and check the rest of this episode out. I would love to hear your thoughts on what I've been saying so far. But so this woman who edited my book, as we're talking about her spiritual worldviews as she's coming out of religion, one of the reasons why she was telling me, because I was asking her, why do you still give license to talk of the spirit and the soul? That's vocabulary that was provided to us by the religions that we came out of. If we're coming out of the religions, why keep that vocabulary alive? Maybe there are better ways to explain what we've been calling soul and spirit. And one of her reasons for keeping the language of soul and spirit alive, I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, is she says, when most people have video cameras in their house. Like I got 4 or 5 cameras just around my house, just in case something happens. It's recording outside, it's recording the kitchen, it's all that. When I'm sleeping at night, it's recording in the bedroom in case something happens. She also has cameras in her house. And when she watches the camera back, maybe you know where I'm going with this, maybe you've done this as well. When she watches the camera back, every once in a while, she sees these things, like it's almost like she's a hair away from calling one of these paranormal activity like shows, like, "Hey, come to my house because there's paranormal activity." Because on these cameras, I see things like zooming past the camera. And what she said to me, I love you if you're watching this. I'm not trying to make fun. I'm just it's part of the combo. What she said to me was, those things shooting past the camera, these little like glowing things or whatever, I believe that those are spirits. Those are spirits of people who once lived, like not ghosts, just their spirits are still active and still alive. And sometimes they come and sometimes they hover over one of my children and all this, and then they'll shoot away. And I did not know how to explain, like, you don't think that this could just be like tiny, almost microscopic particles of dust that are hitting like infrared, like the light from the camera that just happened? Not at all. And she said maybe some of it, but not all of it, because of the way that it moves. It can't be like. So some of y'all are already saying it, right? Pragmatic Crystal says, "That's not a valid reason, in my opinion. Can it be done?" Exactly, right? Let's use logic. And so I think I Googled it real quick. And in Googling it, they came up with the exact same response. And so she was like, okay, well, maybe, but still, because I don't know if it was because she wanted to believe or she had no other explanation for it. So she had to wrestle with whether she was going to accept this one. I say all that to say, if I didn't know about microorganisms and I saw these things floating through my camera, I might be tempted to think that's a spirit being. If I didn't know that there were microorganisms floating through the air and landing on food and then reproducing on the food and all that, I might be tempted to think, I mean, maybe not in this day and age, but could take me back a few hundred, maybe thousands of years. What might I have thought that was? I might have thought that I could have thought that these were little demon creatures building societies on my food. Like, who knows? If I don't know the science behind it, I'm liable to call it all kinds of things. I'm liable to misnomer it and then live an entire life based on this idea that I came up about what this thing is. That is what religion does. Religion takes, so think about the concept of sin, right? Even when I was in my process of deconverting, I knew I could not believe the Adam and Eve story anymore. That was taking away the Jesus story from me. But I still was sitting there saying, but the Bible does, or at least religion maybe, like there is this phenomena of sin that I have no other way to explain if I'm not going to buy into some religious explanation for it. Why do we always do the thing that we know we shouldn't do? And if we don't always do it, we at least want to. What is that about us? Well, if you don't understand human psychology, if you don't understand social biology, if you don't understand just physiology, just what it is that makes you you, what makes you tick, you will be prone to search for explanations that maybe that's not the right explanation, and maybe that's not even the right solution, but it seems to keep you from spoiling. Just like putting my food in the airtight bag kept it from spoiling. Okay, I'm doing the right thing, but I don't know why I'm doing it. A lot of times religion teaches you to do things that keep you from spoiling, that keep you from spoiling your relationships, that keep you from spoiling your finances, that keep you from spoiling your opportunities. One of the things that religion does that helps to put you in a airtight bag that keeps you from spoiling is religion finds ways to make you more selfless, because somehow they've got it in their mind that the self-interest is the problem. And maybe it's not self-interest, maybe it's selfishness, but because religion is not nuanced, religion just sees self and says, oh, any kind of self is the problem. So we don't just target your selfishness, we're also going to target your self-interest. So we're going to just get self the hell out of here. And in doing so, you end up finding out that, hey, I'm a less mean person. I don't think about harming others as much. I counter my inclination to be about self, whether that mean me lying, me stealing, me taking an opportunity that's going to deprive somebody else. When I'm more selfless, I'm better for my surrounding. And because it keeps me from spoiling things, we think, wow, see how well this solution worked? It saved my marriage. It saved my relationship with my kids. It saved my health. I don't smoke anymore. It kept me out from getting in fights. I don't argue with people over nothing anymore. It saved me from spoiling so much. And we use that as proof of, see, so this must have been the right solution, and it also must have properly diagnosed the problem. But that's not necessarily what's going on. That's me not understanding, like I said, human psychology, physiology, social biology. If I don't understand those things, I'm going to be susceptible to some other explanation for it. And even if that other explanation seems to work because it made me more selfless, that is no indication to the truthfulness of the diagnosis or the supposed solution. So all that to say, I really wanted to jump on just to talk about the things I did not know, how mind-blowing it was for me, at least, to realize That's why I freeze my food. That's why I wrap my food up. In the same way, I think the current administration and anybody who's in this country as a citizen with the right to vote and to call your congressman, we need to be talking to our elected officials about this dismantling of the things that are keeping us safe, because the people who are doing it don't even realize. It's almost like, uh, think back to when Trump was president the first time. Remember back when Trump got COVID? Remember how bad it was and how not so bad he was trying to make it look. But we all remember how bad it was for him. And they rushed him off. They flew him. I think they took him to Walter Reed. They took him somewhere, and they gave him the monoclonal antibodies, and it helped bring him back much quicker than the COVID was probably going to take him out of here. But the antibodies, the monoclonal antibodies, helped bring him back. When Trump came back, he started talking about these monoclonal antibodies as if it was magic. It's like, no, it's not magic. These people at the CDC are trying to tell you this is what science produces. It's nothing magical about it. It wasn't a miracle. This is science. But the people who are running our country right now, because they don't understand that, they're taking apart the things that have kept us as safe as we've been. And we need to speak up. In the same way, if you're religious, the religious impulse is trying to put words and language and explanations to things that we could do a much better job explaining just in examining the human condition without relying on and going to these ancient ideas. Like God in the Bible, the Quran, whatever your religion is, God could have done the entire world a great deal of good. Fuck telling Adam and Eve, don't eat from these trees. Imagine if there's a God in the beginning of time, had educated humanity about microorganisms, right? About bacteria, about fungi, about the things that you can't see, but these things will destroy your food. These things will destroy your immune system. For a God to give humanity a book about here's how to live and not mention microbes once, not mention microorganisms one time, when that is the entirety of what I won't say the entirety, because once we become what we become, whether you're a lion, a tiger, a bear, oh my, a human being, we add our own drama into our life. But what really, even if we were the perfect specimens of what a living being should be, even if we were all as kind as we thought we should be, as loving as we thought we should be, if there was never any thought of war, no one was ever trying to dispossess anybody of their land or take all the resources, even if human experience and animals never did any of that, the entire population of the planet would still be fighting a war against microorganisms. Like, we would still have cancers. We would still have diseases because of the microorganisms that we are at war with and that are at war with us, that would love to take over the host beings that we are. For a God to never mention microbes, yet mention sin, is one of the most bizarre and oh, my name still says, I just saw Bethany Keys. My name still says fanatic. Sorry, I'm not being fanatic right now, but this is Be Good. Sorry about that. I say all that just to say, religion has not done us any favors. Yes, the religious impulse might have put a plastic bag around the selfish impulse, but it doesn't understand what it's doing. It's doing some right things for all the wrong reasons. And I think it's part of our job as humanity, as humanists to help us understand, like, what are the better things, the best things that we could be doing to help keep us from spoiling. And let's not have to rely on the old reasons for them anymore. Let's not have to rely on the ideas of sin or rebellion against God or any of that nonsense to try to figure out why we need to put some protection around us to keep ourselves from spoiling anymore. So that's all I got. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat here. No soap recipes in the Bible. Exactly. We're, all the things that we could have used to stave off things like the Black Plague or HIV or none of that, right? Michael Apple, thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, you mean bacteria aren't creeping things? So yeah, I think there would be some Christians that would say in Genesis, God did tell us that He created bacteria because He created the creeping things, and I think that's a that's a stretch, but nonetheless, yeah, appreciate that. I'm gonna scroll through just to see if I missed any other super chats in here. It does not appear. All right. So let me go. I got a lot of food to go wrap up. So y'all have a great day, and I'll talk with you. Greet somebody in Reason's name. Make sure you like, subscribe, and I'll holler at y'all. Peace.